You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
It does not seem to be getting any better. Well, maybe that's just me, and I'm sure we'll talk about that as this goes on. But, man, I tell you, what seemingly started off fairly strong is, in my opinion, beginning to run flat. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Mr. Green, and this is the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. And as you know, for those of you that have tuned in to listen to this before, I do a weekly review of WOW, Women of Wrestling, and their product, largely because it's in line of what I had been doing in this YouTube/internet sphere. But it's admittedly, it is getting more difficult to watch. I am probably alone in that. I mean, anytime I have these criticisms of WOW and their product, I tend to feel like I am by myself and looking at it like, why is this not catching me? Everybody that's on their site is like, this is great, and no, they need to go to WWE, and I love you, and I thought that NXT had a good one. This is the greatest of all time. You know, it's just stuff like that. Meanwhile, I'm just in the opposite side of this. I was like, this is a lot of wasted talent, in my opinion. It's a lot of wasted talent and storylines that don't go anywhere and matches that mean nothing. Maybe I'm just worn out with it. Anyhow, you know, let's go through the news, views, and updates. And then we can get to what's going on with WOW, because I'm sure that's going to take up a fair chunk of time. There's enough things to talk about. There's enough things to talk about outside of. Thank you for tuning in again. You know, if I've forgotten to say it the first go around, I appreciate you tuning in with me now. I always appreciate it. I always appreciate that somebody even bothers to check the broadcast or the podcast out. It always is somewhat surprising, especially the faces or names that some who have turned up and listened. I'm a little bit shocked by that at times, but whether you're a random person online or actually a wrestler in the business that's taking the time to listen to this, I appreciate you all the same. So let's start off with what I just gave you, the news, views, and updates. You may or may not have heard of the King Bees. On Instagram, a few days back from this recording, I put up the King Bees and following their win on the NWA and their Women's Tag Team Championship. Of course, like I said, you can go there now and you can look at that if you want to. But I put them over, because I saw them prior to being in the NWA. They had a pretty good match on UWW, Ultimate Women of Wrestling. And although be it is not a standard wrestling match, I mean, they at points, both teams, not just the King Bees, kind of buried the referee. It was a fun match. I have to admit, it was a fun match to watch and see them doing it. That they were somewhat, in my view, they being the King Bees. For those who are not aware of who the King Bees are, the King Bees consist of Charity King and Danny B. Side note, I'm almost positive that Danny B was hired by by Wow Women of Wrestling at some point, but I don't think she ever made TV. I am 90% certain that I saw her in a promotional shot when everybody had the Wow jumpsuits on and it was standing around the not CEO, but he was an executive on the distribution side. I can't remember his name right now. I'm not even sure if he's still there. Now that I'm having these open thoughts, because the last time I went onto their the media page, I am thinking he was replaced because I saw two women in those roles rather than the male and female. But anyway, that's a whole other topic for another day. I didn't do any research on it, so I'm not going to start spreading rumors and whatnot. I just don't remember them. But I am nearly sure. I am nearly sure, like I said, about 90% that Danny B was there. Anyway, if she was not, she has landed on her feet. She is tagged up with a close friend of hers. She has been wrestling a lot in reality of wrestling and across some independents. And eventually we see that she has found her way into the NWA along with her close friend, Charity King. And now they have dethroned Pretty Empowered 2.0. Now, some of you may not also know who Pretty Empowered is. I would suggest, if you've not seen them work, you find the Pretty Empowered, a hardcore match. I'm not going to say that they're better or worse than the top heel unit in WoW. They're like a parallel to them, if nothing else. But the thing that they will do that WoW will limit their girls on, for right or wrong, or better or worse, is when they had their hardcore match, they got a little bit more hardcore than WoW would be willing to go. And if they went and did the things that I said on this podcast months ahead of them having the match, like you don't have to have what you would consider girly items. Like, just get a chair and spray paint it pink, or a billy club and spray paint it pink. My suggestion was brass knuckles. I was like, go online, buy some brass knuckles, get a high quality paint that works well on metal, spray paint it, and there you go. And then learn how to work with it. That was the suggestion I had. Of course, they stick with the mirrors, and I hate those damn mirrors. I was like, that's such a stupid thing. But lo and behold, Pretty Empowered did it. Anyway, I know I'm getting off topic there. The point being is congratulations are due for the King Bees. I'm really looking forward to seeing them have more matches. They really remind me somewhat of a Heart Foundation-esque type team. You had, you got your speed and your technical wrestler. You got your also speed and power with this combination. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they have, what they got going on for themselves in the future. Queen Aminata has advanced in the Ring of Honor Women's TV title tournament. I think this might have been a bit of an upset. I don't know if anybody, particularly, including me, I should say, was expecting them to get there. I'm or not them, her. I don't know if I was really expecting her to make that. And she's done it. She's a very talented young lady. I don't think that there's any denying that. I just don't know if Ring of Honor, Tony's playpen, had actually given that thought. We all know Tony loves his tournaments and whatnot, but and the Queen has not been really proven necessarily on AEW / Ring of Honor television. People that are in the know of her on the independents, maybe, but not there. And I don't know how well they've promoted it. But I just brought that up because I was happy to see that she has continued on. It is a good thing for her and potentially her career if she can actually hit it. Although I really wonder what they're going to do with just another women's championship. Do they really need another women's championship in there? But, time will tell. Kenzie Page also has a title match coming up at NWA Hard Times. Page is due to defend the championship against Natalie Markova. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I can't remember if it's Natalia or Natalie. But we'll go with Natalia. Sorry, Natalia Markova. She will be defending the NWA Women's World Championship against Markova. They got actually, it looks like it'll be like 3 matches with that'll be featuring the ladies. One of which I think is going to be no, it's not even a mixed tag. I'm sorry. I was reading that and I was like, I think it's a mixed tag, but it's not. It's La Rosa Negra and Ruthie J taking on Rakara Tahaka. Damn. Anybody listening to this is going to know her as Leia Makoa. Okay, so if you was wondering where she is and why she hasn't been on Wild Television, there you go. She's drifted over to the NWA. And she will be partnering up with Tiffany Neves. And I hope I said her name right, too. But they've got a strong presence in this upcoming pay-per-view, at least as is listed right now, because some of the matches are still listed as to be announced. So it is possible that they could switch and swap and change some things around. But as far as NWA Hard Times 2024, as of this recording, you've got a tag team match, as I just stated. You got a World's Women's Championship match, as I just stated. The King Bees will be defending against a team unknown, is listed as to be announced. And you also have the NWA World Television Championship with Max the Impaler, who, for the purposes of this, we will include her in the women's wrestling news, although she lists herself as pretty much non-binary. So there's a lot that's going on there. In fact, it was the Impaler that took Paige's TV championship away to begin with. And then she went on to win the world title like that same weekend. So we will see how it all unfolds. Does anybody out here actually keep up with the NWA still now? Because I don't know if I have seen anything new on their YouTube page and what have you. I know they've moved everything over to the CW and the CW app. Speaking of which, you know what's not on the CW app anymore? Old episodes of WoW. They've been removed. I went through and checked. I was like, let me make sure if that's still there, because I know the NWA is up. And I was unclear how the CW would operate amongst multiple wrestling promotions. Let's keep in mind that the shadow of not NWA, but NXT is lingering over top of the NWA. It hasn't covered them yet, but it's coming. We know that they will be broadcasting on CW proper in the fall. And I know there are times where the CW, this is we're on the TV side of things talking now. I know there are times where they have programs that have been exclusive to the app and or site, if you want to call it that. So the WWE has really not had a history of playing well with others on occasions like that when it comes to television time. They've been doing better about dealing with people and other promotions, particularly when let's be honest, when they find them not to be a threat of any great deal, they don't have any problems working with you. If you don't have any issues or intentions of trying to circumvent them or steal talent or whatever the case, which nobody can do to WWE right now, short of maybe AEW, and that's going to depend on people being jaded and upset with the company for them to go. They can't just run in and take them. But outside of that, with TV deals, they have not always been the most welcoming. In fact, there have been times, reportedly, and I'll stress reportedly, that they have just out and out got people bumped out of things. that was one of the cruxes of the entire MLW lawsuit, which just got settled. So it would be interesting. But yeah, do you watch NWA at all? Does anybody that's listening to this watch the NWA on the CW, YouTube, or otherwise? Do you order the pay-per-views? I mean, I don't really get the chance to keep up with it since they have moved sites. So, a lot of what I watch with them is somewhat after the fact. I wanted to talk about a recent incident that took place at a WWE house show. And some people here probably already know what I'm talking about. The booing of Maxinne Dupree and the subsequent fallout, for lack of a better term, that it caused. So as you may know, Maxinne Dupree was working a house show, which apparently we know at least one fan in the audience was not happy with her performance. Whatever it is that she did, we know at least one was not happy with what she had going on that day. And of course, a lot of people were not her, a lot of people came to her reaction is what I was getting to. She was visibly upset about that. How do you even respond to that? It's the pro wrestling business. I mean, I know that WWE has made a habit of trying to convince people that they're not. But at the end of the day, it's pro wrestling business. People, they don't view themselves as TV, when they're doing these things. They're like, we put on shows, especially under the Vince McMahon regime, which I don't know if they even want to begin to acknowledge these days because all the nonsense that's been going on in his world. But it's like they want to exist in another universe, or at least they did. Like I said, that was largely under the Vince regime. But some of that still exists. That we're not wrestling. We're not that wrestling stuff. We're TV. We entertain the masses and this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. There was a point in time where, it was just expected that if you were on a wrestling program at all, not just WWE, if you was on a wrestling program, that you're going to get booed if you're the bad guy. And you know what? You're going to get booed if you suck. If you win. Now, I'm not saying that they need to just accept it willy-nilly. I'm not saying that. Because there's been fans that do that, and there's always been fans that have done it, and there's always going to be fans that's going to do it. It's the environment of the business that you're in. So I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her for a different reason. One, because this is what they have drilled into her. This is the mindset that they have pushed off on some of these people. This is the same thing I said about Dana Brooke. It ain't her fault that she wasn't any good. Because somebody in that office decided that, well, she doesn't need to go through the totality of this training. Just bring her up. And she'll learn. The open letter that Ashley Mazzaro wrote, before her unfortunate passing, her best friend highlighted that. She said Ashley knew that she needed to train so she could get better and not be getting hurt in the ring, and she was told no because they didn't want her going someplace else to do it. Things like that. Now, I really hope that has begun to change. I hope that they have moved along from that and begun to let's make sure that these people actually know what they're doing before they get into anybody's ring. And whereas Maxinne Dupree is, she's working to try to get better and stuff like that, it is not her fault that she isn't a polished wrestler when the WWE encourages that. So on that regard, I do have some sympathy. On the other side of it, somebody that needs to be sitting there down saying, look, you are going to get booed here. You can't stop that. And if it's going to turn into, I can't take this. I mean, look, it's one thing if the audience member or members start saying some really distasteful remarks. Now I can understand if the wrestlers that jumped to her defense, Rhea Ripley, Zelina Vega, and Becky Lynch, I can understand if that happened. Kairi Sane, for instance, when she was in NXT and they were doing the NXT loops, if for those of you that don't know, they didn't run big arenas when they did those loops in Florida. They were pretty much a well-funded independent. And they ran in places that independent promotions would run, meaning it was a small venue, and you can very likely hear most of those people in there when they're loud enough. Somebody there decided that he wanted to make a Pearl Harbor joke. Because why? Because she was Asian, and it was an easy, low-hanging fruit for him to do it. That is where you jump to somebody's defense, because that was uncalled for, that was unnecessary, and it's distasteful. Saying you suck at a wrestling show has been going on since I have been watching wrestling. I have said it. I've been there. I've been in that front row at the Omni, sitting there yelling, "Vader, you suck!" And you know what he did? He didn't pay me any attention. Kept walking. That's all it was. Yeah, we boo the heels. Sometimes we boo the baby faces when they're no good. Eric Watts. I know that's a name that's lost to time with a lot of people, but Eric Watts, when he came into WCW, he came there clearly because his father was in a position of power and everybody knew it. And it got to the point where people started to resent him because he was there, and it's like, he's not that good. Why is he in this position that he's in, dealing with the main event guys? At least for a brief period of time he was. He was upper mid-card and low main event. And there were times we went to the Omni because they ran house shows there all the time. At that point, when the business was down, you could buy yourself a cheap seat and just move off into, if not the lower decks, you could get pretty close. But at that point, he was not a polished guy. He did get better by the time he got to TNA. Too bad he didn't go anywhere from there. But we all sat out there and chanted, "Boo!" He was the babyface, and we didn't like him. "Boo! You suck. Get out of here. I don't want to see you anymore." He didn't win anybody over, and neither has Maxinne Dupree. And I wish I could say that Rhea Ripley, Zelina Vega, and everybody that jumped to the fence, it was called for and that they should have done it. But come on. If anything, they should be talking to her just on the side, "Hey, look," and giving her just, I don't want to say the pep talk, but they should be telling her, this is part of what's going to happen. If you're there and you're not up to it, they're going to boo you. So let's try to fix that. Let's try to make this better. Let's try to get you to the point where these people feel like you've earned their respect. Because she ain't the only one. She's not the first, and she ain't going to be the last, but she's the first one that showed it on her face. You can't go out there and start showing people that they are bothering you like that. I mean, yeah, you could be upset, but say that before you get the back at the very least. Because that's the only reason that this became a story, is because she made it very visible that they got under her skin and it hurt her feelings. Let's call that for what it is. That she being booed was hurting her feelings. And it was largely because she was inexperienced, and it's because the company put her in a position that she ain't ready for. Valet is one thing. She wasn't ready to be there, working somebody's match. They have a certain bar in their mind of what the women in that company have begun to hit. And if you come up less than, and obviously not prepared for where you are, they're going to do that. Or they feel like you're just getting stuff handed to you. I mean, you can go up and down the line of people that's been in wrestling who have gotten booed tremendously. And you got to get through that. Roman Reigns, before he became the tribal chief, remember that year when he won the Royal Rumble and nobody wanted him? The Rock couldn't save him. They booed him out of the building, and by proxy, The Rock caught it too. John Cena got booed when he first got into the company because they didn't care for him. Then he won him over, and then he lost him again because they thought he was getting pushed too hard. Speaking of The Rock, Rocky Maivia, I mean, that's a legendary story. And there's tons and tons and tons of other examples of that. People who have been put in a position that they weren't ready to handle. Or, like I said, the fans just got jaded and they started doing it. And of course, once they know that they can get under your skin, they're just going to get under your skin. Especially at house shows and independent shows. Let me just go ahead and say that now. Especially there. Because those fans are a different type of fan. The ones that show up at them things, some of them looking to pop their friends and pop the crowd. They just say some stuff to try to get a reaction off of people, including the wrestler. So, no, she's going to have to go through something and get that out of her system and learn or be trained a little differently. And start thinking about it as the wrestling business as opposed to just I'm on TV. Speaking of WWE, it has been reported and I guess confirmed. Former WWE or WWF at the time Women's Champion Bull Nakano will be going into the 2024 WWE Hall of Fame. Congratulations to her. And I can only assume, because there's only one person that should be inducting her in this moment, is Medusa, Alundra Blaze. I mean, that was the entirety of Bull Nakano's run. And it was like they were the entire division. Bull Nakano, Luna, and Alundra Blaze. Like, that was pretty much it. Anybody else, they just had rotating in and out. Like, we'll pay you a day or two to come in here, but that should be the only person that is inducting this woman into the Hall of Fame because she's so intricately tied to Bull Nakano. What were they? The runner-up for match of the year in '94 following SummerSlam. If you want to see the best of Bull Nakano in the WWE, and that is not her work outside of it, you need to go to the 1994 SummerSlam and watch the championship match between Bull Nakano and Alundra Blaze. If you can find the SWS match between Nakano and Blaze, I would suggest you watch that as well. As that was where the championship turned over outside of a WWE event. They had a partnership with them, but we never saw it here in the States. I never saw that match until like 20 years later. But that is the match I would suggest if you just want to get a taste for those who not are familiar with her. And her work, she's going in the Hall of Fame based on her work outside of that company. Let's just go ahead and say that. Because she didn't do enough in the WWE outside of winning the championship in a very poor division to be the Hall of Fame. It's her work outside of it that's going to get her, or that got her this nod. And she deserves it. She put a lot of work on her body. And you talk about some people that need to learn how to work her. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they should watch her. They should watch. She knew how to work. It was gritty sometimes. It wasn't as smooth, but it looked like it was a legit contest when they looked like she was, hey, hit me. She worked hard. And probably because she had to. Because where she was from. Strong style, baby. Strong style. One other thing that we want to go and touch on here before we go into the full-on review. The question that I have is, why does WoW continue to hire non-wrestlers? When I look through the roster of WoW and its participants, there's a significant amount of people there who have little to no pro wrestling background. your Goldie Collins, your G.I. Janes, Chainsaw, Foxy Fierce, wherever she happens to be, possibly Gigi Gianni, Pep Riley, the cat woman, whatever her name is, Katarina something. It's skipping my mind right now because Katarina Jinx, and others. But why? The reason I asked that because when Wild first was created in 2000, and I think they started airing in 2001, you could argue the point like, well, they had to. It's not enough talent out here. Now, there were women wrestlers around, but you could argue the point that they might not have been accessible, or they couldn't fly people in all the time. They may not have had the money, whatever reasons that they might have had. In 2001, I could believe it. I could believe that, okay, well, they just had to make their own. It is now, as of recording, of course, 2024. There's very little excuse for not hiring pro wrestlers for a pro wrestling show. There's plenty of them out there. Some of which are a text message away, or a DM or email. Most of them would be thrilled to do television, which is a lot of the reason why you have some of them that's there now and don't want to leave, because I'm on TV and they're paying me, not paying me all year round necessarily, but they're paying me. I cannot fathom why you wouldn't just get somebody who could hit the ground running and do the show and work and make the matches look as quality as possible. Because there's no way that the other ones can. As much as they get trained, I mean, the math of it doesn't add up. Unless somebody from that company is going to tell me, well, no, it doesn't do, that's not how it works. This is the way it goes, which I doubt will ever happen. But the math doesn't add up. They do it, how many tapings did they do? They did like 3 tapings in 2023. 3. For the sake of argument, let's say 4. So for 4 times out of 12 months for 3 to 4 days over that weekend, this is the entirety of the experience that they get. And then they just sit until it's time to come back, because they have no interest in being a wrestler beyond being on Wild television. And that's not helping them, because it's the repetition that helps you get better. It's the repetition that helps you learn, what do I do in this situation if it comes up? Being able to make those decisions on the spur of the moment, instead of freezing and like, oh, what's happening? What do I do? It's the lack of time that they have in the ring that should be concerning. It's not, but it should be concerning to some of them. And when I was thinking about all of this, I said, I've never seen the post that they use to get people to come and work for WoW. I've never read that. I read somebody's interpretation of it. That somebody did find, and then he wrote an article built around that, which is how we found the pay scale. But I've never, up until now, taken the time to find it, read it, and see what exactly is in that they say. So I'd like to take the time right now just to read a little bit of it, and then we'll come back around to why do they hire non-wrestlers? This little editorial that I'm doing. So this one was posted last year. Of course, if you go on Backstage, you'll find this. Or you could just go WoW casting call. WoW Superheroes casting call. If you do that, you're very likely to be able to find it. You can read it yourself. But this one was listed as live performing arts, paid, and non-union. Titled WoW Women of Wrestling. And I do believe that is the only time in this listing that wrestling comes up. If it's not attached to the title of the show, there's no wrestling here. Which only makes me feel that much more like, why are they doing this? So anyway, WoW Women of Wrestling, seeking talent from Los Angeles, California, roles paying up to $500 to $3,000 per day. Estimated duration not provided. Now, I don't know how they have that kind of structured out. The $500 a day, I have heard. It going up to $3,000, what I read initially from the previous article was largely, and again, I don't know this to be completely true, so take it with a grain of salt. The $3,000 that they were offering was somewhat based around you're going to be there for 3 to 4 days. If you're getting paid, $500 a day, or somewhere along those lines, then you can get up to $2,000, $3,000. If you're on the high scale. Like the high end that I heard was $600 a day. So it's not impossible to get that. And when you look at it that way, that's good money. The only downside is that it doesn't seem to be all year round. It doesn't seem to be. They do list themselves as paying residuals. So where that goes, I'm sure no one's ever going to bring that up either, because I found that WoW has a lot of paperwork that you got to sign and nobody can talk about anything. But we will continue on. About the project, the company details: WoW Television Enterprises, LLC. David McClain, the executive producer. Kristen Garner is the casting director. For those who don't know who Kristen Garner is, Samantha Smart. So Samantha Smart is the one that's helping cast some of these, persons that are coming into the show. They've posted this about 8 times. They got eight jobs listed. The project description: casting female. Pay attention to this. Casting female superheroes for the nationally televised WoW Women of Wrestling. Production states WoW's 2023 season is underway. WoW is holding an official tryout for future female heroines and villains. If you are athletic and willing to be trained in high-flying combat, this talent search is for you. WoW is a body-positive company seeking all nationalities and ethnicities, big personalities, and prior experience in gymnastics, tumbling, dance, and sports is a big plus. Not once does it say anything about being experienced in pro wrestling. Now they have roles in the project. This may be the closest that they got. This for you to apply. They list as required skills: you need a headshot, you need a photo, and you need to be athletic. You need to be able to. I don't know why they would have you have to be able to dance. That sounds silly. But they have it listed there: sports and fitness, athletic, dance, fight training, stage combat, sports and fitness, wrestling, and martial arts. Those are the required things to be doing. If you did not know, let's just say for the sake of argument, that you did not watch this show and you never heard of it, but you're an actress out there in Los Angeles and you're trying to find your next gig and you're looking for something to do, and you read that, really there is nothing there that will make you to believe that this was a pro wrestling project. Aside from the name. Now, it would come across mostly like this is a TV show that's about pro wrestling and that you may be doing your own stunts. Opposed to, we need wrestlers to be in here and be in the ring, and there's going to be fans watching you from all four corners like a standard wrestling promotion does. And, you know, whatever. But this is what I mean. It's like, I am completely of the belief that there's people that have gotten into that show that had no intentions of being a wrestler. They could probably care less about being a wrestler. This is just a show. It's a job. It's just something that they get the chance to do. And I'm sure they love the attention that is given some of them, because some have gotten a chance to go on TV and yeah, you know, I get to do this and empower young ladies and such and such and so on and so forth. Having that drilled into their head, it seems to be like the thing that they all know to say when it's in the middle of an interview. At some point in time, it always reverts back to that. Well, we're trying to be positive and want to inspire the next generation of superheroes. You know, I want little girls to look up to. It's almost, wrestling is almost a backdrop to what's going on in WoW. Other than the fact that is, you know, they can't get it out of the name. Kind of reminds me of, like, you know, there was a point in time when Vince McMahon was there. I was like, you know, if he could have gotten some other name besides WrestleMania, if WrestleMania did not have the equity in the name that it did, I believe he would have changed it, because they did everything in their power to get wrestling out of it. And that's what WoW is to me. It's like they do everything in their power not to be wrestling, except for when they have to. Like, we have no choice but to still, you know, this show is built around a wrestling ring and whatnot, but the show is about what we can do backstage and this, that, and the other, and have some, you know, acting and whatnot. It's like his TV show, but it just happens to be inside of a wrestling universe, rather than the other way around, where you have the NWA, which is a wrestling promotion, but they need TV. The point being, or at least the question here being, is why do they continue to hire non-wrestlers? I don't know. My theory, and it is only a theory before anybody takes that and run with it. My theory is, at this point, they don't need to hire actors and models and whoever answers this backstage ad. They don't need to do that, because they can find the wrestlers. I can find the wrestlers. I've done it. I have gone down Facebook and Instagram, and I have sent messages, hey, are you available on this date, this, that, and the other? They're doing this, blah, 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 blah. I can pay you this much, yada, yada, yada. What's your, and even to this day, I will get emails. I don't even run a wrestling promotion. I don't run a division. I don't book for anybody anymore, because he shut down. But still, to this day, I'll get an email every once in a while, because they see Women's Pro Wrestling Network. And they're like, hey, you know, I'm looking for work, and this, that, and here's my resume. Here's some matches I've been in. If you're ever looking for anybody, let me know. And, you know, and I have to tell them, you know, thank you for sending it to me. If I see anybody else that can use you, I'll pass along. I'm not, you know, in that at this particular moment. But if it ever comes back up again, I'll let you know. It's not overly difficult to do. It can be done. The reason I feel that they hire these people that, you know, that are not within the wrestling sphere to come in there and do that is because it's easier to maintain. It's easier to manage and easier to control. If you are stepping into an environment that you really didn't have any aspirations for being in the first place, it's probably very unlikely that you're going to be like some wrestlers have been. And I have dealt with that side of it too. Who's going over in this match? If you bring me in, can I go over? I'm still trying to protect my image. I'm building myself up and doing that and the other. Who are you booking me with? All those little things that, you know, come up with in the wrestling sphere. Because as silly as it may be to people on the outside, that the championship and your win-loss record to some of the wrestlers means something. They don't want to be portrayed as being beaten into the ground over and over and over again because I lose my value when I go someplace else. Why would wrestling promotion B hire me when I am on television getting beaten like a drum and expect me to be able to get fans to want to come in to see his show? And I know that's not something that a lot of them would be thinking about because they don't do those shows. But when you get those independent promoters that are hiring people, and the first thing that any indie guy will tell you if they've had any spot on television is, hey, I was on AEW. You should be paying me $500 a night or whatever. Although that's a whole different topic also. Like, look, just because you're on AEW as a job guy doesn't make your rate go up another, 2.5 times the amount. Because no one's paying money to see you. Now, if you were one of their top guys there, that'd be different. Somebody who was highly featured. A Christian Cage, yes, people are going to pay money to see him because they know him. Kenny Omega, regardless of whether you like him or not, if you advertise him to show up on a independent show, people are going to show up. He has value in that. Just being there doesn't give you value. But you get what I'm saying. You're probably less likely to hear and have that argument with people who are not there to be wrestlers. They're just there to be the wild superhero. And they'll just do what's necessary. Savage Slayers has been in that company for 10 years. Not 10 years straight, but she's been there for 10 years. It is clear that her win-loss record does not mean nothing to her. She's just happy to be there. I like Steffi. Never spoke with her. I like her. But her value is toast. Anywhere outside that company. She barely has value in the company. And I mean, if we're going to be honest about it, she's a face and she's a lovely young lady, but does she drive up ratings because she's going to be in the main event? Probably not, because she's already been beaten to the dust. Keita Rush, I like her. I did get the opportunity to talk to her. Same thing. She's been beaten into powder on that show. What value would she have elsewhere? The Las Banditas, same thing. They just lose and lose and lose and lose and lose. Now, the difference being is that Rivera and Sanchez, they work elsewhere. Not necessarily together, but they work elsewhere. So, regardless of what's happening with them on WoW, they probably don't care because they working elsewhere with other wrestling companies that will feature them and will give them the match that they can shine a little brighter in. End result here is that my opinion, and I will stress my opinion, is that the reason that they continue to hire non-wrestlers when they don't need to do it is A, Jeannie Buss doesn't know any different, probably doesn't care. This is a nice vanity project to have, to be able to say that I do some stuff and I'm uplifting women. And B is who's going to complain. And it keeps everybody expendable. Having that keeps everybody in that company expendable. If you don't want to do it, fine. Let you go. You have no leverage with me. You don't want to do the job. All right, go. Leave. This I cannot prove. But think about it. That's all I can say. Think about it. Is that all my news? Did I go through all my stuff that was written down here? I think so. So we are now going to go into talking about the actual episode. I feel like I've been talking about the actual episode already. I mean, I just went off in a little bit of a tangent there for, WoW and its stuff. And I feel like we're going to go into more of a tangent because now I have to do the episode itself. The episode number 77. That is the one thing that I will continue to give them credit for, is that they at least tried to make this all year round as a wrestling promotion rather than a TV show. We're going to do 13 weeks and then we'll take a hiatus and, whatever. Because it never works out good for them when they do the hiatuses. But this is episode 77. The title is All-American Girls. The air date was March 2nd. The seasonal count is 225. It opens up with the trios tournament, and this is the rematch between Team Spirit and the Brat Pack. This is because the previous match ended in no contest. This would be the third incarnation of Team Spirit within this tournament. Not necessarily all their fault, but this is the third incarnation. Of course, we know Ariel Sky's been removed. Sparks wasn't there the first go round, so first time would have been Coach, Riley, and Sky. Then it would have turned to Sky, Riley, and Sparks. Now we have Coach, Sparks, and Riley. So anyhow. Ariel Sky does accompany them to ringside. She's, out with her neck brace, and she goes to sit and do commentary, which in this case, the commentary thing is fine. She is part of the team. She was unceremoniously removed because she was hurt. She still wants to support her teammates. It's not like the constant Fabulous Four and they just walk out there and get on commentary just because they can. This had some meaning to it. They could talk to her. How are you doing? Are you feeling any better? Whatever the case may be. So here it made a lot more sense opposed to let's just, hey guys, it's Miami Sweet Heat again. It's like they have some rule that as long as there's two members of the Fabulous Four out, the other two got to sit in commentary or something like that. This starts off with I'm going to say it nicely. A not so well rap, in my view, by BK Rhythm. This is what she normally does. I don't know why she's doing this anymore. It's not going anywhere. They don't seem to be doing anything with it. It's not building towards somebody trying to shut her up. It's not getting any other heat. It's not driving attention to the Brat Pack. It's not helping them with a push. I don't know why this is continuing, that she has to have some rhyme that she does other than the fact that I'm the rapper and I'm supposed to do it. So she does that, and there's almost no reason to go through the entirety of this match. The important parts is that this is a tournament match, which tournament doesn't feel important at all now. Whatever steam that tournament had going into it is long gone for me. Like I don't feel what is the importance of this title now or this trophy. I don't know. So you've got the Brat Pack. They all coming out of ringside, and I don't know what they are doing with Lil J Boogie, because it's not as if she disregards the cheating of the Brat Pack, but it's also not like she's fully gone heel either. And they've never explained it, and she's never said one word about it. Hasn't been interviewed, hasn't got on the mic, hadn't had a backstage sick, nothing. It's just J Boogie's with the Brat Pack now, and that ended it. They welcomed her. There was another word said about heel, babyface, nothing. Hey, I'm in this thing to win. I don't care who I'm doing to get over on. Just nothing. So the Brat Pack, even though I like the Brat Pack, is really morphed themselves into a worthless team. And this incarnation of Team Spirit is worse than that, despite the fact that they win. So you got Team Spirit, and you got the new cheerleading squad of Sparks and Riley. Riley's purpose in this match, let's just go ahead and get to why she's there. Her only purpose there is just to get tossed around and beaten up. Now, I did see that she's a stunt woman, so this is probably just a norm for her, and she's probably perfectly fine with it. But that seems to be the only reason that she exists in this whole lineup is that, we need somebody to toss around. And so they have her do that. She hadn't done anything. She barely speaks, and neither does Sparks. This entire match should have just been coach versus 3 people. Did the other 2 get in there and do something? Sure, they did. They got in there and they had their moments in the ring. But they're so inconsequential. I defy somebody to tell me what is the aspirations of Pep Riley and Sasha Sparks beyond the fact that they have recycled personalities of 2 idiots that follow the coach through hell and high water regardless of what she says or does and kiss her butt constantly. Other than that, what do? They don't do anything. Like I said, Riley's, she's a little porcelain doll. She's only there just to get tossed around. Sparks got in there and did a little bit of something, but then the only point of this match was to get Coach in there so she can clean up. And she did. They tagged her in, and she pretty much went through the Brat Pack members that was in front of her. Sorry. My throat got a little raspy there. But, she just went through the Brat Pack members that was in front of her. And she won the match. There's no story there. It was a tournament match, and it's fine. It was 3 minutes long or whatever they get. This match was bell to bell 5 minutes. I wrote them down, by the way. And that's perfectly fine for television because, you gotta account for the time. But yeah, once Coach was in the ring, that pretty much ended everything. It was Coach versus the Brat Pack. That's what this match should have been. She basically came in there and beat up on both BK Rhythm and Gigi Gianni, while for whatever reasons, Jay Boogie was out there standing and watching. She did a spin on BK Rhythm, which forced her to make a tag. Then Boogie comes in and, now Coach puts her down, does her unprettier. I forgot what a buzzer beater. And she gets the pin. Gianni and BK beat up on Sparks a little bit on the outside. I'm not even sure if that's going to go anywhere. And Coach just stood there in the ring why that's happening. She just, hey guys, I won. This should have just been Coach versus the Brat Pack, and they'd have got there the same way. The only other thing of note that took place during this is that Ariel Sky became a different person. And what I mean there is when I said earlier that Sparks and Riley just recycled 2 personalities of being 2 idiots that follow Coach around. Well, Ariel Sky used to have that role, and I'm talking about the persona, not the performer. By the way, it's before anybody goes and starts taking it personally. But she's sitting on the mic, and it's beforehand when she was dealing with Coach, you would think that she could barely function in day-to-day life because she couldn't think enough to walk and chew gum. Here she's like, oh yeah, David, I'm doing better now. And all of a sudden, her communication skills have jumped up tenfold. So that would be the only other thing that of note here. But this match is completely missable. It may not be their fault because you already had this match and now we got to do it again. But yeah, it wasn't anything to oh man, you got to go watch this. Now I'm sure there's going to be some people out there that's going to say differently, but no. If you look at the last 30 seconds of this match, you've seen the match. Next is Grits N Glam, Jesse Jones, and Amber O'Neal coming out mocking Americana and Santana Garrett. Assumably, they got some stuff out of the prop locker and tie some tassels onto it so they can look kind of like Santana Garrett and Amber O'Neal. And they come out skipping and, with the headbands on it. They're making fun of them and, all that stuff. And they get into the ring and they cut a promo. The fans seem to vaguely care. There's a lot of times like I know because I've seen the guy out there. I know that hype guy is out there like, all right, guys, boo. So that's probably what's happening there. I'm not going to commit myself to that. Maybe they disliked him. I don't know. Because I do know that Jesse Jones and Amber O'Neal are good enough to talk and garner some sort of reaction off of that crowd if they tried hard enough to do it. I honestly don't think that WOW is necessarily the best environment for them. Particularly not the way that they work. If they should be, and this is just a side note, I really think that they are custom made for the NWA. The way that they present, the way that they wrestle, is very grounded, very realistic, very basic. They seem like they would be a shoe-in for that promotion. Now, it's probably not the best paying promotion. I don't know, but Amber O'Neal and Jesse Jones feel like for their women's tag division, especially if they're trying to make that division bigger, they would be like a shoe-in for that. If nothing else, TNA. But that's aside from the point. So anyway, they come out there and they're mocking their opponents, pretty much telling the world what has already happened. Like, yeah, well, we beaten them every time that we got into the ring with them. Which is all true. They have beaten them every time they've gotten into the ring with them. And I don't know why that they continue on, because that feud just unfolded all wrong. Especially when they beat them, and I've said this in the other podcast, they beat Americana basically clean twice. It might not have been a non-cheap with a P win, but they didn't cheat. It wasn't until Santana Garrett got into the ring that they full on cheated. Distractions, putting the tights, stuff like that. So this is supposed to be leading into the final match. Why they are even giving them another match, I don't know. Because they won 3 times in a row, and the build to this has been poor. So they do this, and then Santana Garrett has enough. She's like, all right, I've had enough. I'm coming out, and we don't, the same song and dance. We'll take on us, and we'll get even type thing. So she does, and then the big reveal is supposed to be Americana comes out and her arm's still in a sling, but you can't really see that because she's got the jacket, the tassels on, and all that good stuff. And when she comes, it's like, oh my God, Americana! Like they're surprised and shocked that she's there. And then she takes it off and like, oh my gosh, her arm is okay. She can wrestle. And of course, then the heels bail. And there is no sling. She's just holding it as if it was in a sling. And Amber O'Neal and Jesse Jones, they're trying their best to sell this. Like, oh, I can't believe, no, her arm is, I broke it. How is this possible? And I didn't know it was going to heal. So they bail out. The baby faces get in. They run them off. My major problem with this is how this came to be. Jesse Jones and Amber O'Neal should have been cheating the entire way. They should have been cheating the entire way to facilitate a reason for Americana and Santana Garrett to have another match. As it is, the sole reason for them to have this match is to appease Levi. They went and made this story about Levi. And why do they keep doing that? I hope this is it for him. I hope he's done on this show. That he is finished and he does not come back on the air I mean, because they just constantly carry on when he's there. Little Levi. First name Little, last name Levi. And they make a match for the main event. I'm not even sure why this match is taking place. Grits N Glam should have been saying that. Why is this match taking place? We have beaten you. They came out and cut a promo on stating the fact that they had beaten them relentlessly. I beat you in a tag match. I beat you on your own. I made you tap out. I beat Santana Garrett. Why are we doing this? It's 3-1. Yeah, spoiler. They finally got one. So big deal. They won. They had the most uninspired blow-off matches I have ever seen. Which is why I'm like, this episode is so flat for me. So they do that. The heels bail out. We go to the following segment, which is Goldie Collins versus Holidead. Which means that if Goldie Collins is there, the dog talk is going to be in full bloom. They keep talking about this Violence for Everyone campaign that Holidead is on. I don't know. What's that? Are they making this for kids or not? Because the show always feels like it's for kids. But then you have something like that. It's like, well, violence is for everyone. I was like, all right, well, I'm sure that the mom will be loving to hear their child repeat that. This is a cold match. Doesn't mean anything. Not going anywhere. Didn't have any thing at the end of it. So I don't know really what to say beyond the fact that I know that there's some pervs out there that's all like, I love seeing Goldie get pinned week after week. Something tells me she enjoys it too. That's a legitimate comment, by the way. So if anybody that was questioning, well, I was like, yeah, WoW has a lot of people that watch this for all the wrong reasons. Anybody that questions me with that, go read those comments. It's stuff like that. I was like, they don't care. They do not care about this match, and nor has the show giving them a reason to care about the match. So they have this. We could just skip to the end of what Holidead and Goldie Collins managed to do. Surprisingly, for someone who probably has little to no wrestling background, Collins did okay. But there are times when I feel like she is far more in love with being the personality of Goldie Collins rather than getting into a ring and working any sort of match. If I were going to put this on anybody, I would say Holiday is probably the sole reason that this match is tolerable or that is worthwhile at all. So Miss Violence is for Everyone finally gets appointed to the ring at the end. Gets her in a double arm face buster. I forget what she calls it. Jacks her up, hoists her in the air for a good little while, brings her down, bam, 1, 2, 3. Like I said, there's really nothing here, and I don't know what direction Holidead is going in. And I love that they managed to stick these cameras right up on top of everybody, so that it looks like it's just full blown excitement when she's doing it, when she's winning, and they probably are. Oh God, I'm sorry, I have to read this one too. Goldie is awesome. More attractive wrestlers, please. This is the audience that WoW is bringing in, and now and to be fair, they can't control that. Can't control that. They're always going to be those people that's going to wind up, if it's an all women's wrestling thing, there's going to be some people that's going to look at it for all the wrong reasons. I have seen it and I've dealt with it. The only thing that you can do in that regard is you could try to bury that voice with better wrestling so that the wrestling fans are in there and, it buffers out the community. But as it is right now, you just got a bunch of people that's looking at the WoW girls because they want to see girls and apparently don't know where else to see them. So the only thing that I had with this match is I don't think that Goldie Collins should have been giving Holiday that kind of trouble in the ring. I don't think that she's established enough. I don't think that she has that kind of standing in the wild hierarchy. Yeah, should she have been able to get something? Sure. But this is probably more competitive of match than I would have wanted if I were booking it. Yeah, Holidead, you should be going through her. She should be running from you. She should be terrified of you. She should be getting a move in here and there once she's outmaneuvered you to do it. But beyond that, Holidead, you should be dominant. You should be putting her down, and you should be the 1, 2, 3. There should not be some back and forth contest between Goldie, Collins, and Holidead. Holidead should be winning this. End of story. And like I said, outside of some outmaneuvering or something like that, there's no reason for Goldie Collins to be in the same league as Holidead. Watching this match only makes me question how bad the match with Holidead and Katrina Jinx was. Because there is a match that Holidead and Katrina Jinx was supposed to have aired. It never made air. I had the photos of it, but it never made air. Just a match that took place that failed at time. They got lost in the ether. So I could only believe that either it was a bad match and they didn't want to air it. Katrina Jinx left and they didn't see the point in airing it, or they did it solely to make time for addressing Ariel Sky's injury, which I have a hard time believing that one fully. Like I can understand that they would do it, but there was also something in that episode where they was like, all right, and guys, let's show you how we got to this point. And they pretty much gave you the last 4 minutes of a match, which could have been another match. So that's like, I don't know what their reasons were behind that. And I don't believe that it's fully on, well, we wanted to show Ariel Sky, how she got hurt and all that stuff. I think it was something else. But I'll never know it because that information probably will not become public. Next up, Ice Cold. Inexplicably on their own, along with Candy Krush. Now, yeah, the commentators did bring it up, and they're like, oh, yeah, and Ice Cold's out, and where are the members of Exile? And, I don't know what they were looking to get out of this other than just somebody for Candy Krush to beat. Ice Cold's entire rise has been built on her being a part of Exile. And even though Exile, in the story has had problems amongst each other, why wouldn't Exodus be there at least? If Genesis didn't want to be there, why not Exodus? Why would Ice Cold come out there by herself? And the commentators, tried to cover up for that. Well, they're still having problems and, so on and so forth. Candy Krush. Is she going heel or not? If I was looking at it based on this match, I would have no idea. It's like they didn't, they addressed it briefly, but it didn't really go any further than that. She didn't change her style. Her outfit didn't look any different or darker. She didn't get any more aggressive. It was still a Candy Krush match. So I don't know what it is that they're looking to do with Krush, because the previous week would have led you to believe that, okay, well, she's starting to heel out now. She's, gotten buddy with Gloria Glitter and basically telling her, well, we need to just do what we can do to win. So I don't know. I don't know. I got no signs of that here. None. It was a standard Candy Krush match. And by that, I mean, her job has somewhat kind of settled into, at one point, she was like a gatekeeper. Now she's more like the queen of the upper mid card. If you're going to go up the ladder to, by any degree, you're probably going to have to go through her. I would have thought that, the story here, the easy story to tell, at least for me as a commentator, is that 2 out of the 3 Kandy Krush is taking on, and, she's won one, she's lost the other. Ice Cold is the difference maker. Can she take Kandy Krush? Can she do what Exodus couldn't do? Can she do what Genesis did? That would have been my angle if I were, commentating that. Krush is doing good as a wrestler. She's not fully polished, but if she was somebody that was going to just keep doing it, I would have faith in her. I would believe that, okay, yeah, she can get there. But there are still points where it doesn't work, and I think this head scissors in the corner was one of those points. Like, okay, the timing is off here. She went down a little too soon, and then that brought Ice Cold down on the back of her head. So you had nearly the same exact spot that hurt Ariel Sky in the first place being repeated here. And if you look at it, it's about 3 minutes into it. They go into the corner. Ice Cold lifts the foot. She catches Krush. Then she wraps in her legs in the head scissors around the throat around the head of Kandy Krush. Tries to do a hurricanrana, and then she just comes down on the back of her head and shoulders. And that might have been the only thing that really saved her, is that she didn't pop herself. She swung down low, and it's like, I got no more room for clearance, and folded herself up a little bit. And the ref was right on it. She just jumped down like, "Are you okay?" Which was a necessary thing, I'm sure. But they're too close to be having another incident like that. So anyhow, Kandy Krush kind of stalled for a little while when I was going until Ice Cold got back up on the feet, and then they was able to continue the match. They did fine between the two of them, except for that spot that they took place there, where came down a little bit low, smacked her head on the mat, got a little folded up there, but she seemingly was perfectly fine. She kept going. They did change the camera angle to kind of steer away from it being visually nasty, I think. They took a wide shot. Either that's built off of the crane, which I'm assuming that is on the crane, or it's out in the balcony. I'm going to say it's probably the crane shot that they had. So they get back into the course of the match. They do their exchange. Crush's matches seem to be geared a little bit more kind of move, technical base, or at least the attempt of. Ice Cold had a spot in the match where she got a little bit of chance to shine, where Krush was going to do like a leg sweep of some sort. And Ice Cold essentially she didn't cartwheel over it, but she did like a front flip over the sweep, which gave her, like, hey, look at me, one of those moments. They get towards the end, and it ends off with what we used to know as an angle slam. I think she calls hers lights out. So, but it's an angle slam. 1, 2, 3, and that's done. Ice Cold and went down in defeat towards Kandy Krush, and everybody was happy and chanting and clapping their thunderclap. I guess that's the only merchandise that they have, since everybody's got them. I mean, are they giving those things out for free, or is that just a hot seller there? Again, I wish I knew somebody that was at one of those events so they could be like, "Oh yeah, we just hand them out," or they just sell really well. I wish I knew definitively which one was what. But it was another cold match. It didn't forward anything. It's not like Kandy Krush got on a microphone afterwards and talked about how she was feeling towards the positive people in the locker room. It's not like Ice Cold had anybody from Exile there. It's not like she spoke anything about Exile. It was just a match. It was a match that I wasn't, that I can see most people not being interested in. It just, why? It just was there. That's the only thing I can say for it. It just was there. Not bad, but it wasn't going anywhere. The next segment was the Beast. She came out for, just to speak and tell people, hey, I'm going after the championship. The commentators do their best to put the Beast over as a big deal. I am sorry to say she does not feel that way. At least not for me. She just doesn't feel like she's some sort of a big deal. She had been, I guess in their world, but why would I feel like she's a big deal now? She's just been kind of spinning her wheels and not really doing anything to make anybody feel any differently. She's had start and stops. Do you remember that Sophia Lopez gave her a flash? Like, I would be really surprised if when she has this match, Sophia Lopez does something that angles back to that thing months ago. I'll be surprised, and at the same time, like, why are you bothering with this? That was almost 6 months back. But yeah, she's like, do you remember that? She shows up, she gives us this flash dive, you owe me one, and then she disappears, and we never heard from it again. And then the other people that she was starting out with some sort of feud with, or she was presented as, or they were presented as being on par with her in terms of size and strength, she pretty much went through everybody that she had. She came back and she beat up Chainsaw. She came back and she beat up Vicky Lynn. She had already gone through Reina Del Rey. Who's left? So anyway, she comes and she makes her declarative statement. That's fine. And she's going after the title in Abilene Maverick. There is no build to this. It's just a match out of nowhere. The Beast had no journey to this championship. You're just supposed to be excited for it because it's the Beast. But she didn't have to do anything. What was the point of having a match to determine some kind of number one contender if you could just come out and declare yourself to be the number one contender? And I'm getting a shot. What reasoning does it have behind that? If that is all it takes. And then her promo, as much conviction as she can give in the promo, and she gives a lot of conviction. I want to give credit where it's due there. She puts a lot of conviction behind what she says, but it's almost always the same thing. I'm the Beast. I'm coming for fill in the blank. Because I'm the biggest, I'm the baddest, I'm the Beast, and I want the title. That's pretty much it. There's no deviation from that. And if it is, it's very vague. It's like minute at best. If somebody's got a promo out there that she did that went anywhere differently than that, share it with me. I would love to hear it. People within the organization or otherwise. And that's another thing while I'm thinking about these promos. There are social media promos that they post, like on their Instagram, that never make air. Things that would probably help some of their personalities on camera. It seems like after the match they'll come out and they'll do a promo because you can hear the noise in the background and whatnot. But none of those things make air. And if you're not subscribed or you just don't happen to be on IG that day or whatever platform they posted to, you wouldn't know anything about it. It would just be something lost to time. So if those promos are there to help make them connect to their fan base, I don't know if that's helping. I don't know if it's helping at all to get to do any of that. So we have a Beast promo that has no build to what her goal is just, I'm having a match and I'm going for the title. To put this in perspective, because now, and the only reason I even began to compare them with WWE, because there is really no comparison to WWE. I mean, whether you like them or not, they sit as the top wrestling promotion in the world. Like I said, whether you like them, whether you care for it or not, that's just, that just is what it is. But I only bring that up because apparently if you're listening to Jeannie Buss or David McClain, like their goal is to one day be as big. I mean, she did make the statement like, well, we'll have our own Rock or our own John Cena, but she's a long way from that, sister. I'm sorry. But I bring it up because that is the comparative point. Think about the build towards the title match with here, the Beast and Abilene Maverick versus the build versus Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. And keep in mind, the WWE doesn't have to sell anything at this point. They do not. Whether you buy any merchandise, whether you attend a house show, whether you show up for a pay-per-view or a premium live event or whatever they got, or whether you watch the show, at least for the next 5 years, they got $1 billion coming in regardless of what they do. Doesn't matter. They can crap the bed and it won't matter. Now, they know better than to do that, but I'm just saying the money's there. They're fine. They don't have to push their people to be any better than what they could be as standard as they want to be if they chose to do it. But they don't. They don't phone that in and give those people what at least they try. Some of them do. Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch are set to promo each other to death. This is what gets people interested in it. I had no desire to see Drew McIntyre take on CM Punk until Drew McIntyre kept promoing Punk to death. I am ready to see that match now because he has gotten so witty. The Beast promo is cookie cutter at best. It's like somebody sat in the back. I want you to do this and make sure you get your tagline out. Say I'm the biggest, I'm the baddest, I'm the beast. And then just send her off and do a thing. They've got to go somewhere other than that, other than just let me give you 30 seconds to say something. They got to be a little bit more personal than that. Opposed to, I'm going out to Abilene Maverick, period. I mean, she didn't say anything about it. She cheated me. I had a matter, like, didn't even go into the process of why I want you so bad. It's just the title. The title is supposed to be enough. I had really hoped by the time I got to this that I would have seen some the ratings for a while appear. But I'll be honest, I don't know if WrestleNomics even bothers with the ratings for a while anymore. It's been, they usually post them monthly. It's been a while. I do not think they even bother. It's like every turn I make, something else with WoW has kind of depreciated. And that's what it feels like here. This ends as I stated. It's a promo that you've heard probably 3 or 4 times out of her. Not great, not bad, but it's just it's just a beast promo. I wish that she had the skill set verbally that a Jesse Jones had. I wish she had the skill set verbally that Abilene Maverick has. And maybe she does. Maybe she doesn't get the opportunity to show it. That I would absolutely believe. Because it goes back to what I was saying with some of the other people. It's just, you're hired to do this, but I don't think that the ins and outs or the navigation of the wrestling sphere exist in their mind, because there's no reason for it to exist in their mind. All I need to do is just be a good WoW superhero. As long as I do that, doesn't mean anything else. Not going anywhere else, don't want to go anywhere else. So, don't need to be able to cut a promo to try to sell an event. They got no event to sell. They're certainly not trying to get people to tune into the show like that. It is just put on the fact that these people are here and the championship will draw them to watch the show. That's what it comes across like. WoW sells on the premise of being WoW, opposed to WoW sells on the premise of Princess Ozzy being the star that people want to tune in to watch, or somewhere thereabout. I'm just using her as an example, because most other places will do things like that. They may have that person that connects with the audience and people just want to see them, and they're like, I want to buy a ticket and watch this person win and hopefully root for them or whatever, or I want to buy the ticket and watch this person get their brains beat out because I don't like them. I don't think WoW has that either way. I was looking for it. I was trying, I tried to decipher. I don't think they get that with their audience either way. I think they just, they just show up. They watch the show, they look at the tapings, and then they're fine. Like, all right, I had a good time. We'll see you tomorrow if the weekend is still going, or maybe in the next 3 months. So they recap the Jesse Jones Americana feud. This angle is essentially built on Americana wanting Jesse to be a role model. That's basically what this is about. And they have edited this as such to portray Jesse Jones as cheating for no good reason. Like, she's putting her feet on the ropes and my partner just charges in to stop me because, you can't do that. That's unfair. That type of thing. Now, of course, they're not going to show that the opposition cheated first and then she's cheating back or anything like that. It's just, we have to portray this as Jesse Jones was cheating unnecessarily. And that's fine, because I know editing jobs, you have to do that sometimes, particularly when your boss is saying, hey, make this look such and such. But, that right there tell you, when you edit video, you can edit it towards the narrative that you want to tell. And this is the narrative that they want to tell. Jesse Jones did things wrong, and she should have done it the right way because she's a role model and blah, blah, blah. So it's there to paint her as the villain. It's there to paint Americana as sympathetic, although I don't feel sympathetic towards her. She doesn't help sell this. It's primarily focused on her, but she doesn't help sell this. I don't buy it. Audio for talking about next week's main event was muffled and awful, and maybe it was just me. It sounded like it was laid underneath the music very, very hard. Like I could barely understand them. But like I said, that could have just been me. Now, if somebody puts in the comments, no, I heard him just fine, it was clear, then I'm just going to assume that it was the monitor I was watching. But as it is right now, it sounded just ridiculously bad. End story of the Beast promo, just to go back that for a second. It was a reasonable promo. It wasn't great. It was serviceable, but there was no journey there. It was no journey. It was just a match out of nowhere for the championship, and they're expecting you to be with it for whatever reasons. We go to the main event, and that is Grits N Glam versus the All-American Girls, the new All-American Girls. I say that for those who don't know because Amber O'Neal and Santana Garrett used to be the All-American Girls before they broke up. The commentators immediately make this match about Levi, and I hated it. I was like, they cannot leave this alone. It's jump started by the baby faces. The first thing I was asking, is this supposed to be no DQ? But they just kind of beat each other up. Well, I shouldn't say beat each other. The babyface is beating up on the heels on the outside. Now all of a sudden the heels don't have anything for them. They can't get air or opportunity. They did cut it off at some point. They got Americana in there, and this is one of those points where I'm like, I wish somebody could do something with Americana. Am I being overly critical? That probably be the thing that I need to ask. Am I being overly critical with Americana? Because when I see her work, there's a lot of times her facials is like she's a cartoon character on occasion when she's doing the faces that she's doing in the ring. I like her. She seems like a sweet young lady, but she sells pain like I am concentrating on telling people that I'm hurt and I'm selling pain rather than I'm actually hurt. It's like I have to be as over exaggerated as I can. I got to make all the faces that I can. I mean, it's almost like if you were to put a cartoon bubble over her mouth, if you paused it and just had like the words "oof," yes, that's kind of the face that it looks like she's making sometimes. It's either like "oof" and "arg," like. That is how she looks to me. If anybody feels differently, then, let me know. But it is one of those cases where I'm like, I don't know if her skill set of experience dictates that she should be right there. The plus side is that she's in there with 3 people who could help her out a lot. Jesse Jones, Amber O'Neal, and Santana Garrett. They've all been doing this for a while, and they should be able to help her and give her some pointers. Hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? So on and so forth. But she does the whole bug eyes thing, and just having a field day with her emotions and how she's portrayed on screen. So they continue to beat up on Americana, once they've gotten control, once Grits N Glam have taken over. And then, of course, as it is, you got to get the hot tag in, and here comes Santana Garrett. Santana Garrett gets the cleanup role. Americana comes, makes the tag. They both pretty much tag simultaneously. Jesse Jones goes out, Americana goes out, Amber O'Neal and Santana Garrett come in. So you got a clash of the former All-American Girls getting in there, which, is not pertinent to this particular storyline. Like I said, it's all about Lil Levi. First name Little, last name Levi. She being Santana Garrett, gets a side wrestling leg sweep on Amber O'Neal and puts her down. Jesse Jones comes in to break it up. And then she more or less walks over to try to hit Americana, who saw it coming, blocked the shot, and throat shot at Jesse Jones on the top rope. Jesse stayed in the ring, and it's amazing to me, how Americana was able to charge in and save her partner there. She didn't have any problem. And I will say another time, in the corner when she goes against Jesse Jones, that was probably the single most fire that I've seen her give anywhere. When she fired off on some forearm shots. The camera wasn't right in her face, but, it looked like she had some level of anger behind her. And so pronouns. The All-American Girls, they take their opponents from the opposite corners, Jesse Jones and Amber O'Neal. They try to sling them into each other, but they're able to stop themselves. But as they're doing that, Americana and Garrett are waiting in the wings, and they give them both a super kick. Just knock them out. Americana probably gave a little bit more than a super. I think she gave a forward roundhouse or something along those lines. Because she knocked herself over. She knocked herself off balance. They drag both of their opponents to the center of the ring where they're laying flat, and they both do Garrett's finish. I say Garrett's finish because she was doing it first before Americana got there, and they just pretty much slotted her in as the wish value or the great value version of Santana Garrett. So they win. Finally, they get a pin, and they beat the Hills, the Dastardly Hills, yay. And before she goes out there, Levi's already made his way into the ring, and he's, gives a hug to his mom. And then they go off with, hey, it's Levi, all right. So this should be over with. This should be over and done. This feud should be finished. And they stand there in the middle of the ring with him raising his hands up. Now, I'm not going to persecute nor talk about or get on this kid because I'm a parent and I know how it is, beyond the fact to say that please stop booking him on the show. It ain't his fault, but please stop booking him on this show. He does not need to be there, and nor does he need to be the centerpiece of any more angles. They've, in some form or another, he's been a centerpiece of at least 3 different angles that Americana's been in. Let this go. She does not need to be the wrestling mom forever. Let her grow as a person and a wrestler and get into a grown-up issue with somebody on the show. Otherwise, what is she there for? They should be doing something useful. Going after the titles or getting into some personal thing. They have not done Americana any sort of favors with her booking whatsoever. I mean, I do personally feel your championships should mean a lot to your promotion and to your audience. But I also feel that there should be things every once in a while that are bigger than the championship. The things that Americana has been mad at someone about or had some sort of angle about, when she couldn't concentrate on her job when she was tagging with Jesse Jones because she was making goo-goo eyes at her child. That was one thing, still wrapped around Levi. Then the thing with the Heavy Metal Sisters, you broke my son's tablet. Jesse Jones' leg being broken was the secondary thing. Again, it's kind of wrapped around Levi. And then we get here where you're cheating. You're making a bad example for Levi. And he has her a framed photo of him in her locker. Again, it's all wrapped around Levi. Enough with this. It kills this match. I could care less about it. I mean, they already lost 3 times in a row. What difference does it make to me that they won now? So what? I mean, Jesse Jones pretty much proved her point. I do what I got to do to win. And if you tried a little harder, you could win too. Well, she tried a little harder now and she won. Hopefully she'll move on. Hopefully they'll move on. Grits N Glam move on to something else, and All-American Girls move on to something else. But the one thing that needs to be moved on completely, and Americana, if you're listening, I'm not talking about your son, but he does not need to be booked in any more angles. Have something else to be a motivating factor for her beyond that. If you can't do that, then I don't know what else to tell you. If you're incapable of giving her some other motivation besides they insulted my child, they broke his I mean, look, even that's an old angle, but I got to go back to that one for a second because that was the most absurd blow off to a personal rivalry I think I've ever seen. It broke her son's tablet, in storyline. And the thing that made it all worthwhile and even for her was getting a moonsault off of the top rope and getting a pin. And everything was better. And it's the same thing with this. I'm like, what the fuck? Sorry. Yes. I need to bleep that out. So anyway, it's just one of those things. They need to give her something else to do. because this does not work. It doesn't work well for her future. And I don't think that she will notice that. I think she'll just take WoW at face value and she will buy into whatever she's told. And as long as she does, like I said at the beginning, there's not going to be a lot of complaint there. There's not going to be a lot of buck in the system or, hey, can we do this or that? It's probably just going to be, oh, all right, well, hey, whatever you want me to do, boss. And I'm not saying that she should complain, but, maybe a different idea exists beyond being the wrestling mom. I know that's her IG handle, but come on. You can do something else. It ain't that difficult. So anyhow, this all ends up, that is the last thing. That was the finish of the show. This angle is over with. This entire episode was very flat for me. It didn't provide me anything. It was just like filler. 2 of the 3 matches here was just there for the sake of being there. Goldie, Collins, and Holidead didn't mean anything. Nice match, but it didn't push anything. And let me just say, every match doesn't have to push something, so I understand that. But it wasn't something that you would get involved in. Ice Cold Candy Crush, which both of them have something going on right now. So I would expect it to at least hear a promo out of Crush, or maybe a confrontation backstage with Ice Cold with her partners to help forward whatever they're doing. None of that happened. Beast came out to promo for her main event match next week, which really has nothing to it other than the fact that the Beast said, I'm getting a match. And then the opening match, the Brat Pack. Like I said, that match might as well have just been 3-on-1. It was Coach Campanelli's match. And it was not in some sort of great match like, man, this tournament is fantastic. It's just a match. The best match that they had here was the main event, Jesse Jones, Amber O'Neal against Santana Garrett and Americana. I want Americana to do better. And I don't say that in a mean way. I mean, I legitimately want her to do better. Somebody needs to be there and be pushing her. You can do better than this. Not in a mean way, but you can do better than this. Try harder. Get on the microphone and let's hear some promos out of you. Believe what you're saying. Like if I were to walk up in that building and I saw the 2 of them, we're talking in the kayfabe universe. Well, maybe in the real world. If I was just to walk up and I saw her somewhere at the tavern, I just walked up like, give me that, and threw it on the ground and broke it. I promise you, her reaction would be nothing like what you saw on TV. She'd probably be calling me all kinds of this, that, and the other. So, I need that. I don't need you to act the part. Do this as if it were real. Stop concentrating on I'm playing the role of Americana and I'm trying to be an influence for little girls. I want to raise people. No, some of y'all need to be working off of pro wrestling rules. I know the mandate of WoW is, we're here to uplift and all that stuff. Some of you need to be working off of pro wrestling rules, and Americana is one of them. That is one of the people that I like. This would be better for her if she did this a different way. The WoW approach for her doesn't work. So that's that. That is where I am. That is my review of the show. This has come across like Dave McClain was left to sell the angles in commentary. And I will say this before I go. Is it me, or did that audio for David at times sound different? Now, that's probably going to be a question for those people that do audio engineering and have a sound ear or something like that. But there's times where it sounded completely different. It's like he recorded all the commentary for certain things, and then they just went back like, oh, I got to cover that up, or I have to say this, that, which is very possible. Because it sounded like it was on a different microphone or a different location or something like that. It did not sound audibly the same. If I am the only one that heard that, then, that's why I'm not going to pass this off like it happened. I'm just going to say that I heard differently between him talking about the main event and him periodically throughout the show. It's like they just dropped in these little audio bites, but it just didn't come off like it was in the same venue or using the same microphone. That just may be me. That felt that way. So I will leave that to the room. If you heard it too, feel free to drop a line and let me know. I do not have the preview for this week's WOW because I'm doing this just a little bit ahead of when I normally get it. I usually try to wait. I usually try to wait until the email comes through so that I can have that in front of me and be like, okay, well, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and such. And as far as the press site is concerned, the times when they upload that are generally following when I get the press release. So I can't just go on there and look at it either. Sometimes I go in there and it spoils it for me, but it does let me know, okay, if this is happening, that's happening, this is supposed to go on. But I don't have that this week, so I apologize. I'm sorry, I don't have the means to give you a little heads up. I will try to drop it on the YouTube channel and the website when I receive it. So if you're listening to this on any platform, and we are available in greater podcast platforms, if you're seeing it or hearing this elsewhere, you can go there if you're interested in knowing what's coming up on Saturday. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and take those pictures of the match that never was, Katrina Jinx and Holidead, and I'll put that up so you can see what I was talking about, just in picture format at least, that they had this match and apparently, just kind of disappeared. So that's that, folks. I believe I've covered all my bases here. If I've got anything else that's coming up, I will be sure to let you know. There are some other reviews that should be taking place. UWW has had another event that took place, and I thought for the little bit that I saw, which was the King Bees match, I thought it was outstanding at that point. Hopefully the rest of the show lives up to it. Their editing is crap because they have a commercial that breaks into it mid-match and like every 5 minutes or so. So I'm going to try to watch them, see if I can get through it, and we'll do some comparative notes. Does WOW need UWW to exist in order to get better? Does UWW need WOW in order to try to push themselves? They're on opposite sides of the same coin with completely different philosophies on how to present their wrestling. And I want to look at it, and I want to touch base on it, and maybe we'll come to a unique conclusion as to what should be done between the two. And on that note, folks, thank you very much for tuning in and listening to this podcast. And in closing, and as always, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.